simply put, directly, war is to kill somebody we disagree with. That's it. People can find interesting ways of phrasing that, but the idea of war is to kill another person.
No niin, hyvää lauantai-päivää. Täällä suomalaisessa kirjakaupassa on tänään kirjan julkaistustilaisuus, jossa suomeksi on ilmestynyt Ishamel Beahan kirja Leikin loppu, ja tarkoitus on tässä vähän alustaa ja kertoa, mistä tässä kirjassa on kysymys, ja haastatella tänne saapunutta Ishamelia. Please welcome Ishamel. Good to have you here. And tell just a little bit how you were trained to be a soldier.
Well, basically,
you tell it in the book, but if there's something, you know, general.
Well, generally, what happened being trained to be a child soldier is basically first you're taught how to shoot the AK-47 to reload it. And perfection comes by actually being in a war. And we underwent training for less than a week. And then we went to war. So the first day of war, some of the kids that I joined with, that I've run with so much, that I've become like brothers to me, were killed. Because none of us knew what to do. So, you know, I was lying there paralyzed, not knowing where to shoot, what to do. But I was able to survive that day because I started shooting, you know. And so were the people who survived. But as time went on, this became the life. And in a strange way, these groups, even though they coerce you, they force you, they manipulate you, they drug you, because you've lost a sense of family, community, they replace that. So you get attached to the group as well because of that. And the way to prove your loyalty to this group was through violence. The more violence you committed, the more accepted you were in this community that you had.
You never questioned anything, what you were told to do?
No, not at all, because early on in the training period, they made it clear that if anyone who questioned command would be killed. For example, there are many instances where we'll be walking on the path, we come across somebody and the commander says, I don't like this guy, he looks like a rebel, shoot him. And sometimes some people will hesitate and they will shoot that kid who hesitates. So when you see that, you knew when you were asked to do something, your life depended upon it. And so, but as time goes on also, this becomes normal. For a kid who are like, you know, I was 13 at this time, and there are kids who were as young as 9. For children, quickly, this became our reality so much that we were in it, that we failed to even exhibit those emotions that you're capable of exhibiting when you're in a normal circumstance. Yes, I have seen Blood Diamond, and it's a good film. I mean, I'm always in support of anyone who does anything to raise awareness on this issue. And Blood Diamond did an amazing job in terms of bringing people who probably hadn't heard of this issue to be able to look at it and look at the different facets of it, especially the external factors that really exacerbate this war. But nonetheless, I was a bit worried about the movie because of certain things it had in it. One of them particularly being the way it portrayed how children heal from the war. It made it seem as such a quick fix, that you remove the child and they're fine. Now that's dangerous for people to believe that, because that's not true. Healing from the war it's possible, but it's very difficult and it's a long-term process. You know, it's not a short-term process. So that's one of the things that really did upset me about the film. Because if the public believes that, especially people who are learning about this the first time, then a child who doesn't heal in a month or two is considered damaged forever, you know? And that is not true. It took me 8 months. If people had given up on me in a month or two, thinking that this kid is done with, I wouldn't be sitting here. So that's why that really bothered me quite a lot. And also, you know, the level of violence that was shown in the film, it didn't even compare to what was there. You can't capture that at all. But nonetheless, it did a good job. But it's also made the Sierra Leone army look like it was this beautiful army that went after everyone. Everyone knows that that's not true, you know. So there were a few things here and there, but overall, I think it was a very good film that really showed a lot of interesting things. One of them being how families that are together get disrupted, because I think oftentimes people think it's just the people whose lives are caught up in this thing are already people who are criminals in the culture and things like that. That is really sane families, people who are going to school, children who have already a life together that gets destroyed by this. So it showed that a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of influence with Western music, with Western movies. You know, like we watched Rambo: First Blood and Commando and things like that, and people went out and tried to reenact what they saw in it because we all had the tools to do that. Now, if another kid watches somewhere else, they can get excited, but they don't have the tools. We had the tools to carry out that same madness, so we did. And people, you know, in Freetown, they had a group called the West Side Boys. We were kids that basically emulated, you know, gangster West Coast music and things like that. And, you know, so, but it is the wrong use of the music. It's the wrong use of the violence because people had the access to the tools that allowed them to do that, you know. Well, you know, musicians, you know, rap musicians, the ones that pretend to be tough and do this and do that, they have not been severely touched by violence at all, so they don't have a strong conception of it, because anyone who has would not glorify it in any way. And now the difficulty is when kids listen to this music and they take it for granted, then it destroys their lives, because these guys actually, most of the guys who rap about violence in the United States don't live in the neighborhoods they rap about. They live somewhere nice. They don't, because, you know, if they live there, they won't be rapping about it, you know. So that's the difficulty. Now, some of these guys, you know, if they were in Sierra Leone or places like that, would not survive. I went on a trip, actually, when I went to Sierra Leone. Some of these guys came to see what had happened in Sierra Leone, and they were very scared, you know. And the war wasn't even going on. It goes to show how far removed they are from the reality of violence itself, you know. There are people who still have a romantic notion of war or violence or being tough and things like that. So when I talk, I try to let people know, especially young people, that it's not at all. You know, I think that's part of why writing this book also is to de-romanticize war and explain that through war you cannot understand another person. You cannot solve most problems actually through war.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.